The Central Florida Christian Chamber and Triangle Media welcome you to the Builders Podcast, spotlighting Christian business leaders and their stories of faith, leadership, and success. Here's your host, Suzanne Lynn.
Hi, and welcome to the Builders Podcast. I'm Suzanne Lynn, and today we get the honor of speaking with the February speaker for the Relationship Building Lunch. That's going to happen on Thursday, the 13th of February, and you're not going to want to miss this. I especially enjoy personality tests and communicating, and if you're interested in that, you want to know how to better communicate at home and at work, you're going to want to get your tickets ahead of time so it doesn't sell out. Krystal Parker is a certified DISC behavioral expert, professor, trainer, speaker, and executive coach. Krystal attended Harvard Business School for senior executive leaders, has a psychology major and marketing master's, and I absolutely love the idea that you started your career stocking shelves, went from a temporary worker to executive in 11 years and became one of the only handful of women officers for Fortune 200 oil and gas giant that she worked for. Okay. Krystal, we're so glad that you're here. And I have a feeling that a lot of people that are sitting in the luncheon are going to be thinking about their children and how maybe they're college age and they're moving up. You were the youngest executive in your company, and you moved up in your career in such a short amount of time. How did you do that?
Well, I really believe in living a life only explainable by God, and that is really what happened here. I'm so thankful that when I left college, it wasn't because I just decided to go back home to my small town of 300. I did a pretty good job of messing things up, and it sent me back to start over and really gave me a different perspective. You know, stocking shelves in a trucking parts store was all that I felt like I was worth and that my value was.
Wow.
And so as I've had time to reflect, how did I do it? Starting there, 85% of job success comes from well-developed people skills. And that's just nothing that I came up with. I'm Harvard, Carnegie Institute, and have done the studies to prove that.
85%.
85%. And it's so funny because so many companies spend millions and billions of dollars on technical training, and they miss that soft skills training. And so it's really, just to take it one step further, Google, they were looking at, Google is filled with just engineers and analytical people, and they were looking and testing different organizational structures within the organization. And they started to identify some of the managers were more successful. They wanted to put the analytics behind that and see what causes them to be more successful. So they started a new project called Project Oxygen. And they found out that there was 10 top things that came to the surface as far as what make them be successful. And I'll give you the top 5. Okay. Because I know you want to know.
I do.
And this is in the order of the success ratio.
It is
measurement.
in the order. Okay.
Yes, it is. Number 1 was being a good coach. Number 2 was communication ability. Number 3 was the ability to value diversity and different people's opinions. Number 4 was empathy. And number 5 was critical thinking. So think about that. It wasn't who is the smartest engineer. It was
who's the best on the computer.
That's exactly right. And so for over 100 plus years, soft skills have been the biggest indicator of success for academics. Even though that didn't work out for me right away in my career.
We all had to grow into it.
We grew into it, and in work and in life. And so I think that's just so important. One of the things, and I definitely don't want to take credit for it, that made me successful in my career was my ability to get people much smarter, much more talented than I am, put them together on a team, a very diverse group of people, and we were able to accomplish amazing things.
Well, you keep talking about this diversity, and this seems to be a major part. What is important about having a diverse team?
Yeah, I think people get caught up in the fact that diversity has to be a metric, and it's so much more than a metric. Diversity has to be an integral part of culture and an integral part of a business. Companies, it's actually a proven fact that companies have a more diverse workforce, have 19% higher returns than a comparable company with less diversity. So it pays to have a diverse workforce.
Absolutely.
And why is that? And I think it's really important, and I saw this when I started to build teams and work with people. When I had a lot more diversity on the team, we were able to be more innovative. The problem solving was so much better because there's different solutions and ideas. It's not a lot of groupthink and a lot of the same thing that was happening. there was an ability to serve a unique and a different customer segment. That's really important too. I think we've all seen it where advertisements come out and companies get a black eye because their advertising campaign really isolated a specific group or was offensive. And I have to think back when I see those happen, those advertising fails happen, I have to think, who was on the team?
What did it look like?
Yeah, right. It was just definitely.
I love that.
Yeah, and so diversity is in two different forms. And so what is diversity? So there's inherent diversity and there's acquired diversity. So inherent is the things that you're born with. That's the things that you can see, but personality is also inherent. And then there's acquired. So if you think about me and my career, when I started, I was stocking shelves. You know, I was different because I was a psychology major.
Your experiences.
Right. That's right. It's acquired. So it's based off the things that you've experienced in life. And when there's 3 inherent diversity metrics and 3 acquired metrics, when they put those together in one person, it's called 2-dimensional diversity. And so companies have found that when there's leaders that have 2-dimensional diversity at the helm, they are able to serve their marketplace and grow their business significantly more than comparable companies. The statistics are there to validate it.
Okay, so I'm going to bring the cookies down on the shelf low by what you just said. I'm going to wrap that answer up in a way I can understand it. So it's like Rocky when he said, Adrian, I got gaps, you got gaps. Together we got no gaps, right?
I love it.
That's a little bit less sophisticated.
Adrian, we got that. That's right.
It makes so much sense though, because we do, we have people that fill in where we're weak, and you can support each other and help each other up. So, so we can say that understanding patterns of behavior is pretty important then, understanding those patterns. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so patterns are really important in a sense. I mean, first of all, I think it's important to note that we're all uniquely and individually made. I mean, we are the masterpiece of our Creator.
Amen.
And this isn't by any means to put people in a box and say that this is where you are and you're locked in there.
Right.
However, it's so neat that hundreds and hundreds of years, this isn't anything new, hundreds of years they've been studying the differences in people and recognizing different patterns in behavior. But now with data science, with the psychological research that we have, the ability to take the analysis and technology and put them together, this is what you're able to see is take the guesswork out of people.
Right.
Think about that.
Sure.
Really, it's just so cool. And I get so excited about it because just think about animals. As you see an animal, you know a zebra by the stripes that you see.
Right.
You know a tiger based on what you see on the outward appearance, right? By a flag, you can tell the difference in country based off the stripes on or the markings on a flag. Wouldn't it be cool if people would walk around with a label on that told you how to approach them? So my daughter, she just turned 13, and one of the things that we love to do is when we are at a restaurant or dealing with anybody customer service-wise or teachers or friends, we talk about what's their behavioral pattern. It's behavioral science. So the better that you get at recognizing those patterns, the more successful that you're going to be with the people that you interact with on a daily basis.
Because you're meeting them where they're at.
Absolutely.
You're understanding them, which is really important because, I mean, I'm sure none of us work with annoying coworkers.
Oh, no.
I mean,
no.
So, but when you do, with these patterns, you can go, look, I'm understanding it because this is where they're coming from.
Absolutely.
It helps with the empathy.
Most definitely, yeah.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit before the interview about that you're not so much about, and I want you, if you're listening or watching, I want you to hang in with me on this one.
Hang tight.
Krystal's not a believer in the golden rule. Can you explain about that?
For communication.
Okay.
Yes. I did believe in the golden rule. I believe in treating
communication.
People right.
Communication.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, it's great. It's super. The thing about the communication is, and I love to use this illustration because it kind of helps people understand it. Think about getting onto an elevator. Something interesting happens when you get in an elevator. Like there's a magnetic force that on your back that pulls you to the back of the elevator.
Yes, it does.
And then there's something that happens with your head and it automatically goes down to your feet or up to look at the numbers.
Right.
And then there's like the silence on an elevator.
That's
it's
really
just,
funny.
Yeah, it is.
I've never
it
heard
happens.
it explained so clearly.
It really happens. So when the doors open, let's just say that I'm someone that I really enjoy meeting new people and I love talking to people and I love using hand motions and it's just super exciting to me. And so I take 3 steps into the elevator. And instead of do the back to the wall and turn around, I just face you just like this.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, right.
No.
And I'm talking to you. Hi, how are you? And I've never met you before in your life. Now all of a sudden, but that's the golden rule. I'm doing to you like I would want to do.
Right.
But what I've done is I've shut you down. And
wow.
now
That's a
all
great
of a sudden,
example. I'd be like,
yes, you wouldn't hear anything that I said, right? And so what's really fascinating about communication is that only 7% of what you say is heard, 38% is the verbal tone, and 55% is nonverbal in a conversation. There's so many barriers to communication that happen that it is so hard for your message to be heard. And so it's really important that the individuals that you're communicating with stay in a calm nature so that they can hear you. And as an example of that, early in my career, I worked with all men in the office, in the field office. So I was the only lady in there. Well, I do have a enjoyment of talking to people like this, right? Well, what I noticed in my young 20s were the guys, they would stand kind of shoulder to shoulder and talk. And I thought, wow, I'm going to try that. So I started standing shoulder to shoulder and having a conversation with the guys in the office. And I was able to converse with them much longer in doing that. And so I recognized at that point there's this fascinating thing, and it's actually science. It's called mirroring in communication. Another perfect example of this was my boss. As I grew up in the organization to the VP level, my boss was the president, and he was an engineer. I think he was probably born an engineer right out of the womb. He loved data. He loved facts, not so much people.
Okay.
And I'm a people person, and I'm expressive. I'll use my hands. So gosh, if you're close enough, I might give you a big hug. And I could tell that when I was talking with him, he was shutting down big time. And so I realized I had to change the way I was communicating. It wasn't because that's what I liked and what I felt good with, so I wasn't going to treat him and communicate with him the way I wanted to be communicated with. I needed to communicate with him the way he needed to be communicated with. I'm not kidding. I would walk into his office and sit on my hands. I would come in with bullet points and data, just to really improve. I would not talk about personal things. I was very monotone in the way I spoke with him. And let me tell you, our communication just grew
totally changed.
Absolutely. It absolutely did. So mirroring is really an important factor in communication. The people that are mirrored the most feel like they were heard the most. That's a statistical fact. If you mirror, people feel that they have been heard. So just like predictable patterns in behavior, those patterns follow a communication pattern, and that's how it all ties here and why it's really important.
We have so much to go over. You know what? Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. Do you mind talking about opposites, introverts? I don't want to say aggressive, but maybe more assertive or active people and such like that. We'll be right back, okay?
Do you have valuable information to share? Are you looking to build a relationship between your brand and your target audience? Are you able and willing to talk about your products, services, and/or industry on a regular basis? If you answered yes to these questions, then you or your organization needs a podcast. Podcasts are the new talk radio. 144 million Americans listen to podcasts, including 90 million on a monthly basis. Podcasts are in demand because consumers want information on demand, on the go, and in a personal, relatable way. At Triangle Media, we take care of every step of your organization's podcast. From idea creation to recording and editing through distribution, it couldn't be easier for you. We even offer white label podcasting services for agencies who want to offer podcasting to their clients. Contact Suzanne Lynn at trianglemedia.biz to learn more and ask about video podcasting too.
Well, we're back, Krystal, where we're talking about opposites and understanding, people that maybe were introverted, they're extroverted. How do we start to communicate and understand each other better when we're totally different?
Yeah, well, I find when you put all those people together and there's not a lot of self-awareness or respect for other people, I think a boxing match would be, you talked about Rocky earlier. Yes. I think you're going to see it. In this corner, we have, it's funny because.
Are we ready to rumble?
Yeah, you've got the outgoing people that are like talking to everybody in the room.
Yep.
You've got the introverts that are hiding, hoping. Right. They're like hiding, seriously.
Suzanne and Krystal are going to see us.
I know, they're coming. I know they are. So like pretend like you're talking or go to the bathroom or face the wall.
Right.
You've got the passive people that are sitting there going, okay, if we ask these questions, I've got to understand everything before we make a decision. So that's like, And then you've got the active people are saying, we need to make a decision quick. I know enough information to keep going here. And then even more so, you've got the task-oriented people that saying, we've got to check the list. We've got to do these things.
How do you find common ground between all these? That's even more than I was thinking.
That's exactly right. And you've got the people that are saying, well, I really don't care about the checklist, but I really want to develop the relationships. And that means that I've been successful. And so this is diversity, and this is vital in an organization. And the thing is, it can be very volatile in an organization if people don't understand themselves first.
And it might take some harnessing, maybe some leadership instruction.
Absolutely. That's that soft skill development that we've talked about and why that's so important and powerful, because putting everybody in a room isn't going to be the answer always. I mean, what you're going to have is you're going to have people gravitating towards their groups and whatever and where they feel comfortable, and that's just how it's going to happen. But the first line of diversity is personality. And I think so many times people think it's really a metric, and personality is the first line. Absolutely. Some
Gender.
of those inherent things we talked about.
Wow, that's really interesting. You talk about gravitating, and I think that we tend to gravitate to people that we're like. There's such advantages to getting outside of our comfort zone with that.
Yeah, there really is. Well, so speaking of gravitating to people we like, I think we've kind of established that we see, and I knew I'd get my hug. I was going to get my hug.
Thank you. Okay. Now, if it was your boss, he'd be like, Krystal.
Yeah, he would. I'd be sitting on my hands if he were my ex-boss, which I love you, Greg, by the way. So it's really, the laws of attraction are real. It's a brain science. This isn't anything that's new, but there are constantly new studies that are showing the power of the unconscious mind. So something that you may not know right off the top of your head is that we're pretty much unconscious all the time. 10% of our brain is conscious. The 90% is an unconscious. And so attraction lies in that unconscious piece of your brain. And just to prove that, recently in the scientific journal, there was a study, and they had a group of individuals that they showed different patterns. Let's say one was red with stripes and one was blue with horizontal stripes. And they told them you have 20 seconds to select the pattern, and within 10 seconds, before they pushed their lever, their button, within 10 seconds, the people that were doing the study recognized the pattern that was going to be selected before they selected or pushed their button. How did they recognize it? Subconscious. So really, the subconscious is driving the ship, and the conscious is really just along for the ride.
Oh my
and
gosh.
so what happens is, with the laws of attraction, is like attracts like. I love to say birds of a feather find each other first, and then they flock together. That's
like
exactly
that,
that's exactly what happens. So when I profile different organizations from the supervisor or wherever, I find clumps. And so one supervisor will have hired 10 people on his or her team that are right in that same personality profile. I know that you've talked about you and your husband work together, and you have different personalities, which is what makes you guys such a dynamic team. But if you were to pick each other to hire someone to work with you, you're going to do exactly what feels most comfortable to you, and that's who you're going to hire. And so diversity has to move from the unconscious and the attraction and being able to put diverse people on a team. You have to go from the unconscious, and you really have to consciously make that effort.
Are you really going to miss this next on the 13th? Are you seriously? You hear Krystal, everything that she's sharing, you're not going to miss this,
You don't want
right?
to miss it. It's just so exciting because it's really going to impact your bottom line. And so one of the things, and I think the study is just a really powerful study of employee engagement and some of the different things that can happen. I'll just wait. I'll tell them to you.
There's so much going
There's so
on.
much good stuff.
We kind of have to start wrapping up.
Okay.
And I can't encourage you enough to come out. I'm going to be in the front seat. I'm
Awesome.
going to be in the front row if that's okay.
great.
I love this personality stuff and communicating because it's really so important. There is no financial income and outcome. There's no business if people can't communicate on that front line. Isn't that right?
Oh, it's so true. When there is stress in the workplace, and that's often time caused by personality differences. When I was 26 years old, I went from the field to my first sort of division corporate job, okay? So basically what that meant was I went from wearing jeans every day to wearing my Dockers. and I got me a corner cubicle, and I was in HR, and I'll never forget, 26 years old, and I'm seeing these adults, and adults at the time were about the age I am right now.
Right, I know, right?
And I'm watching these adults, say a woman and a man, and then the director of HR, and then legal person and somebody else. We go into this conference room that was right by my cubicle, and I'm not kidding. I would hear screaming and crying and yelling, and one would come out with face red, and this wasn't even a husband and wife, okay?
Wow.
And the volatility was so high in the workplace. And right then I recognized that this is a personality difference. There's some, in my mind, I'm thinking, why can't they just fix this? What's the deal?
Right.
Well, APA, the American Psychology Association, came up with a statistic that said over $500 billion to the U.S. Impact to the U.S. economy because of workplace stress. Okay.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. So a bad boss or a stressful relationship is bad on the heart. Over 550 million days were missed in the workplace on average every year because of workplace stress. If you want to see this metric real life, go to a place where it's a very stressful work environment, which is based on people typically, and you'll find over a 50% voluntary turnover. Well, that's hard dollars right there, guys. I mean, if you look at the cost of turnover replacement costs go from anywhere from 25 to about 42% of an annual salary is what it costs to replace an employee. So I love to say people don't leave organizations, they leave people. They leave coworkers. People don't leave marriages, they leave people. That's why they get unmarried and go marry again. Yeah, so it's so important to note that. And employee engagement is one of the best indicators. So a lot of companies will go in and we're going to build a gym, and we're going to put in a prayer room and a meditation room, and then you can work from home or whatever.
But I'm still going to yell at you.
But I'm still going to yell. Right. And so what happens is the biggest factor in wellness in the workplace is employee engagement. And so Best Buy did this study. It's so interesting to me. And I'm a big business nerd. You guys are going to have to get the axe out to cut me off because I can keep going on this
I love this stuff.
Forever. But Best Buy did the study. And they found that if they increased their employee engagement by 0.1%, increase in employee engagement in one store, the value of that was worth $100,000 annually to the revenue.
Oh my gosh.
Employee engagement. I mean, this is hard dollars, soft dollars, and really harmony. And so I just love to tell people that soft skills are really the key to healthy, wealthy, and wise.
You summed up this whole interview with that last line so well, because we talked about the income, the dollars and everything, but that stress from work, it also goes home and it hurts families.
Absolutely, it does.
So it's worth it. It's worth investing an hour and a half to come out. Just get to know Krystal and find out more information about her. How can people reach you?
Yeah, well, okay. So if they come to the lunch, I'm going to unpack the model.
Okay.
So we've talked about the pattern, and I'm really going to unpack what that pattern looks like so people can take that with them. I think it's really important. I'm honored to be able to sew into Christian businesses and just businesses across Central Florida. It truly is an honor because of the ability to touch and impact people's lives, which is why I do what I do every day. So my business is Krystal Parker with Intent and Impact. I love to tell people I deliver the impact your intentions deserve. I think so many people start and try, and their intentions are in the right place, but they don't always get the impact they're looking for. And so if you want to find me, just go to my website, intentandimpact.com, and you can find me there.
Okay, we're going to put the website right there. It's right there. So thank you for joining us in the Builders Podcast, and we hope to see you on Thursday, February 13th. Thank you,
so
Krystal.
much.
Thank you
So
so
great.
much.
This has been the Builders Podcast, presented by the Central Florida Christian Chamber and produced by Triangle Media. If you're interested in having a program like this for your business, contact Suzanne Lynn at trianglemedia.biz.